there's one thing that I do religiously, it's throwing spokes into my own wheels. In this video, I want to help identify a few of the things that might be hindering your progress as a photographer so that you can end up being a little bit less petty as a photographer. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sergio and I'm a commercial photographer here in Victoria, BC. I've been shooting a little over 10 years now, but a lot of it was definitely petty. There are times in my career that I can definitely pinpoint that I was the biggest obstacle in my own way. Looking at it now with a bit of time in between when it was happening and now, I'm able to look at it rationally and be like, yeah, that was a mistake. I should have done this. I should have done that. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like that. You don't feel like you're doing the wrong thing. You don't think that by putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a situation that has no real rules or is full of uncertainty that you're ever going to be wrong. It's a subjective world. How am I wrong? But when you think of where you're trying to be and what you're trying to do as a photographer or as grow this job that you're dreaming of, there's definitely ways in which you are hindering your progress, and there's definitely ways in which you shouldn't do things or shouldn't approach things. Number one is just letting things roll. It's a collaborative effort to be on a photo shoot, and it's 2 or 3 or 10 people working together to create something, and you have to be able to see the bigger picture and take yourself out of the current feeling or moods that you have. You're probably getting in your own way by trying to create things for your own portfolio when you're getting paid to do something, or trying to put too much of your own input into something when the client has to be happy, not you. Being a photographer is being a hired hand and being someone that is trusted upon to create what they want. Not what you want, what they want. It's more important for them to be happy than it is for you to be happy. And by them, it's just an example of them. It could be at Nike, or it can be your neighbor. Point being, you want them to feel like they're in control, and you want to relinquish that power that you're holding on to a little bit too much. You're hindering yourself because when you have the inability to collaborate with someone, they're probably less likely to book with you again or a second time because they didn't feel like it was a back and forth and it was just you doing your own thing. But also, it's probably going to hinder you from your images being that much better. It's hard in the moment to take criticism or to take advice from someone who knows less than you or whatever, but they're also seeing the image or seeing things from a different point of view. And my images have always been better when I collaborate with people. The bigger my team is, the better my images become. And it's not about just you and your own thoughts, and it has to be all you. And if you've assembled a team, there are multiple people on sets, and you click the shutter, it's still your photo. You still get to say that you created that image. So don't be too petty about having other people's input. You are working together on creating something for your client or for your neighbor, and that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember the collaborative effort from you as a photographer and the ability to work with you and the enjoyment that they had on set. The final image is almost secondary. It's pretty much secondary. It's going to change. The way they look at that final image is going to change depending on the interaction they had with you as a photographer. You're being petty if you're not enjoying that experience or making that experience enjoyable for your client, and you're trying to just throw yourself into it and not letting them have a word. It's a conscious decision to let them be in control and to let them have a little bit of this sense of control on the photo shoot. At the end of the day, what are your priorities, right? Are you happy with a camera in your hands? Because that's what I am, and I'm happy with the act of doing the photography, not having that final shot that's exactly the way it was supposed to be, or that it was with the biggest client I was been dreaming of forever. It's about just shooting constantly and being in this world that I enjoy so much. So if I'm doing that, I try to not let the other things bother me down too much. If I'm busy, I'm happy. Point blank. This might be for portrait photographers specifically, but if you're working with models, don't mention something that they haven't mentioned yet. Just keep your mouth shut. Honestly, there are so many times that I can think of that I've added more editing work for myself because I noticed something on set that the model didn't even know or wasn't even aware of to begin with. Whether it's my lights in the background or a hair flick that is doing something weird, but just keep your mouth shut and then wait for them to be like, hey, by the way, if you notice something and you don't like it, or if you are aware of the additional implications that it's going to cause you in order to mention something, then sure, mention it. But if I'm on set and I'm trying to light a piece of glass and I have to shoot 120 pieces that day, I'm not going to worry about that 5% change that's going to take me an extra 20 minutes on each individual shot that isn't actually going to affect the final image. Or maybe it affects it for me, but not for my client. My client can't tell the difference, and they're just as happy anyway. So don't put too many roadblocks in front of you, because oftentimes the clients aren't looking at the same thing as we are. They're not seeing what we see. They're looking at one thing, and they're probably super focused on it, and they might hate it, and they might tell you to change that one thing, and that might not even be something that you're focusing on or looking at or whatever. But it kind of goes back to the point of the collaborative effort is going to make you a better photographer. So listen to what they have to say more so than what the inner voices in your head have to say. If you have this free time, if you have the energy to do more, then sure, do it. But you'll be better off if you listen to what they want and then act appropriately based on what it is that they want as a client. As well, not even just on set, but oftentimes when I'm editing, if I'm editing, like if I'm retouching skin, for example, how many times have I zoomed in so far that the pixels start to become just pixels, and then I realize that I'm like, oh, whoops, I'm at 500%. I don't need to be here. And then I keep zooming out, and I forget what it is that I was doing to begin with, because I was inside a fold of another fold of another fold of another armpit, and trying to remove a hair that was actually on the lens to begin with and never even on the picture. Like, whatever it is, you're probably spending too much time hyper-focusing on that little piece of thing that you're editing that the client literally does not care about. The client is just waiting on you to finish your photos, but they're taking an extra week because you're spending an extra hour per photo trying to edit it. Just let your clients be the judge. And sure, you want to have a certain standard, and you might want to give your client a certain thing and a certain level of quality, or whatever you think quality means. But if your client doesn't notice it, if the people who are looking at the images and the audience doesn't notice it, and it's causing you nothing but grief, don't do it. You're putting roadblocks in your own way. You don't need to do that. Invest that energy that you're no longer spending on getting into your own way, and then put that back into yourself, knowing that you can be a better photographer because you're a better person to begin with. We are people taking pictures, so work on the person who's taking the photo. Don't just worry about the photo or how much you're editing a certain corner of an image, or how much you would rather the client had a blue shirt on instead of an orange shirt because it's going to fit the whatever, like your portfolio a little bit better. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Worry about the interaction with the client. Worry about making them feel comfortable and in control. Worry about getting them the best experience possible so that they're most likely to book with you again, tell their friends that they will book with you once and twice and third times. Once or twice or three times. There we go. I've told you about getting a routine and scheduling your creativity and getting a dog so that you can walk your dog and take your head out of just working for 12 hours a day, and you're not actually being more productive by doing that. I know, for example, in this job, there's a lot of telling people what to do, and there's a lot of no rules or no like strict guidelines, or it's free flow, and that's what attracts me to this job. But one of the things that I love to do as a time off, or as a way to just switch off my brain and to think completely differently, is to do Lego. And it's maybe silly, but I like the idea of just being told what to do and following a step-by-step, 10 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then once you get to the end, it's done and it's over and you have a completed thing, which is pretty hard to find the parallel for in photography. There's no real blueprint rubric to reach a final goal. There's only YouTubers and people who write posts on Reddit and things like that we can hopefully try to gather a little bit of knowledge from. Focus on yourself. Focus on being less petty. Think about all the ways in which you are being petty. And if none of the ways that I've outlined today are ways that you think you are petty, or you throw spokes into your own wheels, let me know down in the comments. Tell the other photographers down in the comments, and let's have a little bit of a dialogue and understanding what it is that gets in our own way. Because like I said at the beginning of this video, we don't notice it in the moment. We're not there being like, oh, I'm such an idiot for doing all of these things. Well, maybe. Sometimes we're that self-aware. But oftentimes we don't notice it until it's too late. And we don't notice it until we look back and being like, man, if I didn't do that, I could have spent so much more time, blah. What is your blah? Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you learned something new in this one. Leave a like on your way out, and I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.